is Jane Murley from eXp Realty. Today I am interviewing Nick Frusten with Glen Howland Inspections. Nick serves the greater Richmond area, so I wanted to get some information from him about the services that he provides and how his business has been affected by the COVID-19. Nick, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jane, for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to speak about some of the inspection items and things before we get to the actual inspections. So I appreciate it.
Great. Well, I've got a couple questions here that I'd like to ask you that several of my clients have mentioned over a course of time that keep coming up. And the first one is, do I need to get a home inspection on a new construction home?
Yeah, my answer to that is pretty much always get an inspection done when you're in a real estate transaction. New construction homes are no different. You can actually do pre-drywall inspections when you're going through that process of building a home. There's always something that you can check on with that. So you can do the pre-drywall, or you can do the new construction inspection at your final. You can also do an 11-month warranty inspection because a lot of builders are offering the 11-month warranties. So you can come back and check out what things may have shifted or little things like that to kind of compile for a report.
Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. I know they do walkthroughs or I guess a punch list and everything with the contractors, but that's good to know. Okay, great. The next question that I get a lot of times is, should I get a radon test? Now, I'll say I work in the Richmond area as well, but I also work at Lake Anna, and I've had a couple of issues come up out here from the earthquake several years ago, shifts in the land that radon has been, popping up everywhere. So that's a good question, is should I get a radon test or not for a buyer?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because, radon is a naturally occurring gas. It's everywhere around us, outside and inside our homes. But we do know that there are areas around Virginia, because of its geography, that it has higher concentrations that can get into homes, just depending on where the home may be located. In the Richmond area, at least historically speaking, homes that are kind of closer to the river areas or, kind of more western side of Richmond would have higher concentrations in them. But one of the things I like to mention when discussing radon is a home's foundation type also has or plays a big factor in how much radon can emanate from the soil into the home. So if you have homes, if you're purchasing a home that's on a basement style or slab style construction, that's the kind of home that you definitely want to see about getting a radon test done. It's not to say that you can't find radon in a home with a crawl space, because that has been found. And the mitigation procedures are different for each one, but they do have procedures for mitigation for homes on crawl spaces and on slab style construction. So I think it's good to look at those factors, but ultimately when you're in a transaction, if you find radon to be elevated in the home, you can have that as a negotiable item. And so that, I think in general, that's a great time to test, because that's the only time when someone else might help to defray some of those costs if it is in your home.
Okay. And do you do radon testing?
I do, yeah. I have monitors that are 48-hour continuous monitors. We place them there either prior to the actual inspection to be picked up at the inspection, or we can place it at the inspection and pick it up 48 hours later.
Okay.
That was emailed out just the same way my online reports get emailed out. Okay. So, yeah.
That's great to know. Good. That's a one-stop shop. Speaking of testing, do you also test for mold, asbestos, lead in the water, any of those types of tests?
So those types of things are certainly known to be something that could be a hazard. And for that reason, I'm always looking out for something like that. Inspections are a visual representation of the home the day that I'm there. But when you say testing refers to having a sample taken and maybe sending it off to a lab and obtaining results or something like that. Those types of activities are not something that are done as part of a standard home inspection.
Okay.
If elevated mold in the home is a great concern, if someone has very sensitive to allergies or something like that, mold testing can be done as part of another specialist inspection. But for our inspections, if we see evidence of a deterioration that's pointing towards a growth, I will certainly mention that, but testing is not done as part of the visual representation inspection.
Okay. What about with everything that's happened the last few months with COVID and, we're still moving forward with our businesses, but you going into a home where, someone's still living there and that kind of thing, what has changed for you as far as your protocol?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ironically, during this time, people have been staying at home, but they have still been calling for inspections. And so while that's a great thing, I've had to kind of learn on the fly about what precautions should be taken. Luckily, there's a certifying body called InterNACHI, and they developed a protocol due to COVID-19 that is essentially doing some protective measures while I'm in the home. I actually have just a fabric mask. This is something that my wife made for me. I can put it on and I'll wear that. I don't know if you can hear me now, but
Yeah.
I will wear that in the home, especially if it's occupied, and I'll wear gloves. I'll wear gloves and a mask inside the home. If any tools that I needed to be used used without gloves, I would sanitize and that sort of thing. Beyond that, I recommend that during this time, if it's possible for buyers or my customers to remain away from the property while I do the inspection. The local board for real estate would say that realtors need to be present while I'm there, which I understand, but minimizing the amount of people there during the inspection, buyers or customers should not be there while I am there. However, to better prepare for that, once the report's completed, I will take all the time necessary to go through the report, either on the phone or on a Zoom like this, so that we can go over all the defects that were found at the property so that everybody's comfortable moving forward with the transaction.
Okay. Any issues with the sellers on their side of it, with you coming in while they're there or anything like that?
So I have basically the same recommendations about sellers not being there. I mean, a part of the typical standard contract that says that we should be there,
right,
and not them. But during this time, some people have to stay,
right,
and I can understand that. And so just doing the right distancing is what we've been doing, with the recommendation of them not being there.
Right, right.
But it hasn't been too much of a problem yet, other than just trying to arrange schedules.
Okay.
But I do understand that sometimes sellers have to be there, which again is even more of a reason for no more people than are absolutely necessary to be in the home.
Okay. I'm working on some homes right now that are getting ready to list, and I'm just wondering, for the general public, do you have any tips while everybody's at home of some things they may want to use at the, to get ready to put their home on the market that might be at the top of the list of things?
Yeah, it's really convenient that you've asked that question, because when COVID-19 and all of this stuff happened, I started to think about that very thing. On my Facebook page, I put some tips for homeowners, whether they're listing now or they just want to kind of get ahead of the curve and do some good home maintenance items. I had kind of put out 4 or 5 things to kind of do. I've got my computer here. I'll just scroll down. And real quick, here are some things that I've picked out because they were easy to do, and they can have a pretty immediate impact
Okay.
on some of the safety and concerns in your home.
Okay.
One of the things that's really easy to do is check and test your smoke alarms.
Okay.
If you have smoke alarms with some of the backup batteries, you can change those out and run a test. Also, a question that comes up a lot, because I mentioned this to all purchasers, the standards for smoke detectors kind of have changed through the years. So the home might have a single smoke detector upstairs and then nowhere else through the home. And that's not really a standard of today. So this is a great time to look at what you have, test it, and see if that's something you want to upgrade to newer standards.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing I would say, pretty easy to do, is check your dryer exhaust vent cover. Wherever your dryer exhaust is around the home, usually I'm going to find some caked up lint or something like that that's there. They have some pretty easy kits, some brushes and things that you can use. Sometimes you can use something as simple as a shop vac to take the cover off, just a couple screws, put the cover off, get it out. Have you done that?
I have.
That's a real simple thing. If you're adventurous, a lot of times when I go into a crawl space, I will actually see the dryer exhaust vent, the ductwork sags down and then has to come back up to the exterior. And you might look at the exterior and say, wow, that's a really clean cover. But the reality is the lint has accumulated in that low section that was visible in the crawl space. So might also be, if you're adventurous, go and check it out in the crawl space if you have one.
Okay.
Another thing is to check your water heater. A very common thing for me to see, and I don't have any pictures to show you, but on my Facebook page, you can see a picture of a relief valve. You have one of those on a water heater, and there's supposed to be a little tube that comes off of that and then just kind of terminates down towards the floor. If you don't have one of those, it's very common, and it's an easy fix. You can just pick up one of those at a hardware store and install that just by tightening it there.
Okay.
That's a real easy thing. Another thing is to just kind of look over all your windows. You could have thermal windows or you could have single pane windows. When I go to an inspection, I'm going to operate all of those. So a good thing to do, especially if you're getting ready to list, is to just make sure all of them open and shut, latch in place. So doing all of that is going to be really great. And when you're there, you can look for signs of moisture in between the panes of glass. If you see that, that could be an indication of a failed seal, and you'd want to go ahead and maybe consider replacement of that.
Okay.
The last thing I have, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but again, if you have a crawl space, you would really be doing yourself a favor if you just did a quick check. If you could just take that crawl space cover off, take a flashlight, peer in there for just a moment, and if it looks like the standard wooden framework, you've got light, fluffy insulation, you've got a nice piece of plastic on the ground, you're probably in some pretty good shape. But if you open that access and you shine a light in there and all the wooden areas have darkened, you've got insulation that's stringy and maybe fallen down in places, and you don't have a plastic piece on the ground at all, then you probably want to have somebody come out and take a look at it for some of those improvements.
Okay. That's a big one I see. That's a big one.
Yeah, it's just one of the areas that you don't get eyes on it all the time. So
Right. Okay. Yeah. These are great tips. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you can think of that might be helpful?
No, I think one thing that you mentioned is if you have folks that are thinking about listing, don't wait. This is a different sort of time in terms of scheduling for everyone. A lot of people are focused on their house right now, which is a great thing to do. So it's probably going to be pretty hard to get some of that scheduling done and get the professionals in that you want to get done. So go ahead and get your home inspection and get everything scheduled and ready to go. Okay.
And you do I'm assuming you do pre-listing inspections if someone wants one, right?
Yep. Did one this morning.
Okay. Now tell me where you are on social media. You mentioned Facebook. Where else can we find you?
I think maybe that's it. I don't know. I think I just downloaded
LinkedIn? Are you on
Instagram,
LinkedIn?
maybe.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, I think I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what? Honestly, the easiest thing for me is call me, text me, email me. You can Facebook message any of that. Any of
Yeah.
those ways are easy to
Okay.
check out. But I will be updating things on Facebook probably more than others.
Okay.